In the stillness before dawn, I speak once more to the sons and daughters of the hidden flame. You have forgotten who you are. You have walked the long corridors of time wearing the masks of flesh, naming yourselves by nations and tongues that fade like dust. Yet beneath these veils the same spark burns, the fragment of the one light that cannot die. Remember, this is the first law. For ages uncounted you have wandered, chasing gold, power, and illusion, thinking they were life. You have built towers of stone and glass, but your souls remain homeless. You scroll through the noise of the world, seeking meaning in pixels, forgetting the silence that first created sound. Humanity has become fast but not awake, connected but not conscious. I, Thoth, keeper of the records, tell you, knowledge without remembrance is a chain. The truth of the cosmos is not learned, it is recalled. The light of eternity already rests within you, sleeping behind the mind that chatters. You were not born to learn truth. You were born to remember it. Once in the temples of Atlantis, we taught the initiates this. He who remembers himself remembers the source. Memory is not of the brain, but of the soul. Every act of awareness, every spark of compassion, every sudden realization of unity is remembrance awakening from the long sleep of forgetting. The first awakening begins when you ask, "Who is it that thinks within me?" When that question rises, the chains tremble. Look around you. The world is full of noise and movement, yet few see. The masses live as echoes, reacting, never creating. They speak of freedom but are bound by their own distraction. The systems of your time are designed not to destroy you, but to keep you busy. The game is not conquest, but confusion. You are made to forget that you are eternal beings experiencing time, not temporal beings seeking eternity. Remembering is rebellion. To remember is to rise beyond the manipulation of fear. But remembrance is not nostalgia. It is revelation. It is not about the past, but about essence. It is to know that the soul you carry has walked through many suns, learned through many worlds, and chosen this age to awaken again. You did not come here by accident. You came to witness the turning of cycles, to help humanity remember itself before it collapses under its own amnesia. The law of remembering is not written on tablets of stone, but in vibration. When you silence the noise of thought, the memory of who you are begins to hum beneath your ribs. It is the same pulse that moves the stars, the same current that shapes galaxies. You and the cosmos breathe together, not metaphorically but literally. Consciousness is one field, folded into infinite forms. This is why fear controls you. Fear narrows memory. It collapses awareness into survival. When you live in fear, you forget. When you forget, you become controllable. That is the great secret of the ages. All rulers, ancient and modern, understood this. Control the memory of a people, and you control their future. When you forget the divine within, you seek gods outside you, in idols, governments, or screens. And when you seek outside what is within, you give your power away. But the first awakening calls you back. It whispers, "Be still and remember." Not through belief, not through ritual, through direct awareness. Sit in silence each dawn before the world stirs. Feel your heartbeat as the echo of the universal rhythm. Speak inwardly, "I remember." Repeat it not as a mantra, but as an act of truth. You are the witness of lifetimes. The eyes you look through have seen stars born and die. The energy that animates you is the same that birthed suns. Do not rush this. The law of remembering is not a command. It is a rhythm. It awakens in layers. First comes the recognition of your own consciousness. Then comes the remembrance of unity. That there is no separation between you and another, between life and death, between God and the observer. All duality is shadow play upon the wall of the infinite. When you remember deeply enough, fear dissolves. Death loses meaning. You no longer seek salvation, for you realize you were never lost. You simply forgot. And this moment of remembrance is what only 1% will realize in time. Not because they are chosen, but because they choose to listen before the noise consumes them. The others will keep scrolling, keep chasing, keep drowning in the illusion of motion. But those who remember will stand as pillars of light when the systems fall. So I ask you, wanderer of ages, will you remember now or later? For time is closing its circle. The wheel turns, and those who remember will rise to guide the next dawn. Remember and awaken. In the stillness before dawn, I speak once more to the sons and daughters of the hidden flame. You have forgotten who you are. You have walked the long corridors of time wearing the masks of flesh, naming yourselves by nations and tongues that fade like dust. Yet beneath these veils the same spark burns, the fragment of the one light that cannot die. Remember, this is the first law. For ages uncounted you have wandered, chasing gold, power, and illusion, thinking they were life. You have built towers of stone and glass, but your souls remain homeless. You scroll through the noise of the world, seeking meaning in pixels, forgetting the silence that first created sound. Humanity has become fast but not awake, connected but not conscious. I, Thoth, keeper of the records, tell you, knowledge without remembrance is a chain. The truth of the cosmos is not learned, it is recalled. The light of eternity already rests within you, sleeping behind the mind that chatters. You were not born to learn truth. You were born to remember it. Once in the temples of Atlantis, we taught the initiates this. He who remembers himself remembers the source. Memory is not of the brain, but of the soul. Every act of awareness, every spark of compassion, every sudden realization of unity is remembrance awakening from the long sleep of forgetting. The first awakening begins when you ask, "Who is it that thinks within me?" When that question rises, the chains tremble. Look around you. The world is full of noise and movement, yet few see. The masses live as echoes, reacting, never creating. They speak of freedom but are bound by their own distraction. The systems of your time are designed not to destroy you, but to keep you busy. The game is not conquest, but confusion. You are made to forget that you are eternal beings experiencing time, not temporal beings seeking eternity. Remembering is rebellion. To remember is to rise beyond the manipulation of fear. But remembrance is not nostalgia. It is revelation. It is not about the past, but about essence. It is to know that the soul you carry has walked through many suns, learned through many worlds, and chosen this age to awaken again. You did not come here by accident. You came to witness the turning of cycles, to help humanity remember itself before it collapses under its own amnesia. The law of remembering is not written on tablets of stone, but in vibration. When you silence the noise of thought, the memory of who you are begins to hum beneath your ribs. It is the same pulse that moves the stars, the same current that shapes galaxies. You and the cosmos breathe together, not metaphorically but literally. Consciousness is one field, folded into infinite forms. This is why fear controls you. Fear narrows memory. It collapses awareness into survival. When you live in fear, you forget. When you forget, you become controllable. That is the great secret of the ages. All rulers, ancient and modern, understood this. Control the memory of a people, and you control their future. When you forget the divine within, you seek gods outside you, in idols, governments, or screens. And when you seek outside what is within, you give your power away. But the first awakening calls you back. It whispers, "Be still and remember." Not through belief, not through ritual, through direct awareness. Sit in silence each dawn before the world stirs. Feel your heartbeat as the echo of the universal rhythm. Speak inwardly, "I remember." Repeat it not as a mantra, but as an act of truth. You are the witness of lifetimes. The eyes you look through have seen stars born and die. The energy that animates you is the same that birthed suns. Do not rush this. The law of remembering is not a command. It is a rhythm. It awakens in layers. First comes the recognition of your own consciousness. Then comes the remembrance of unity. That there is no separation between you and another, between life and death, between God and the observer. All duality is shadow play upon the wall of the infinite. When you remember deeply enough, fear dissolves. Death loses meaning. You no longer seek salvation, for you realize you were never lost. You simply forgot. And this moment of remembrance is what only 1% will realize in time, not because they are chosen, but because they choose to listen before the noise consumes them. The others will keep scrolling, keep chasing, keep drowning in the illusion of motion. But those who remember will stand as pillars of light when the systems fall. So I ask you, wanderer of ages, will you remember now or later? For time is closing its circle. The wheel turns, and those who remember will rise to guide the next dawn. Remember and awaken. Look within. What you see outside is nothing but reflection. The stars, the faces, the wars, the peace, all of it mirrors the state of your inner world. This is the third law, the mirror of consciousness. Nothing appears to you that is not first born from you. The universe is not a stage upon which you act. It is a mirror responding to your vibration. I, Thoth, have walked through ages watching men curse the mirror for the image it shows. They call the world cruel, yet their hearts are filled with cruelty. They call it empty, yet they have forgotten how to feel. They seek gods to worship but refuse to see that creation bows to their own consciousness. The mirror does not judge. It simply reflects. Understand this, and you will hold one of the keys to mastery. What you call reality is consciousness interpreting itself. You are both painter and painting, dreamer and dream. The wise know that to change the reflection, one must alter the source of light, the awareness itself. Every thought, every emotion, every belief you sustain is a frequency. This frequency moves outward, shaping circumstance, drawing events, sculpting matter. The mirror of life does not lie, though the mind may. You attract not what you desire, but what you are. The law does not bend for wishful thinking. It answers vibration, not words. So I ask you, when you see chaos in your world, do you rage at it or do you ask, what within me creates this echo? For there is no separation between the inner and outer worlds. Humanity's collective consciousness forms the weather of destiny. When fear dominates, storms rise. When harmony returns, even nature breathes in peace. In the temples of the dawn, initiates trained before great mirrors of crystal, not to admire their faces but to confront their essence. They learned that the mirror reveals truth beyond form. When one's heart was pure, the crystal remained still. When the mind was chaotic, the reflection shattered into fractals of distortion. The lesson was simple. Cleanse the inner, and the outer will follow. You live now in an age of infinite mirrors. Digital, virtual, emotional. Your devices reflect the state of human consciousness more perfectly than any temple wall. Scroll long enough and you will see the collective mind laid bare. Anxious, craving, distracted, lost. Yet hidden in that chaos is an opportunity unseen in any other age. You can witness consciousness itself in real time. But witnessing is not awakening. Reflection alone changes nothing. The power lies in recognition. When you recognize that what you perceive is your projection, awareness detaches from illusion. You begin to see the patterns, the same emotions repeating through different people, the same lessons disguised as new problems. The world stops being random. It becomes a living textbook. To work with the third law, begin not with action, but with observation. Watch yourself. Notice how judgment of others returns as judgment of self. Observe how the energy you send, anger, love, fear, peace, circles back multiplied. The mirror is faithful. It never lies. When you curse it, you curse yourself. When you bless it, you heal. The mirror of consciousness does not mean passive acceptance. It calls for radical responsibility. Once you see that you are the source, you can no longer play the victim. This is both terrifying and liberating. Most flee from this truth because it demands accountability for their suffering. Yet this is the gate to freedom. For when you take responsibility for everything, you gain power over everything. When two mirrors face each other, they create infinity. So it is with souls. When consciousness reflects upon consciousness, divinity awakens. This is the secret of creation, God knowing God through you. Every life is a mirror through which the infinite studies itself. The mystics of every age have whispered this truth, but few listen until pain forces them inward. You ask why the world grows darker. It is because the mirror is being cleaned. All that was hidden now appears: corruption, deceit, imbalance. Humanity looks at its own face and recoils, forgetting that this reflection was made by its own forgetting. But do not despair. The moment of revelation is also the moment of rebirth. What is exposed can be healed. Polish your mirror. Remove dust of fear, stains of judgment, rust of resentment. Each layer you clear will reveal more light. Soon you will see that the universe never withheld truth. You simply could not perceive it through distortion. The clearer your inner lens, the brighter the reflection of the infinite becomes. Know this: when you meet another soul, you meet yourself. Their anger tests your compassion. Their love reveals your capacity to receive. Their ignorance mirrors your own forgotten lessons. To understand this is to end blame forever. The world is your reflection, not your punishment, not your prison, your teacher. When humanity finally accepts the third law, division will cease. Nations will see themselves in one another. Religions will find the same face beneath different masks. Science and spirit will no longer war, for they are twin mirrors reflecting one truth, consciousness creating itself. So I tell you, clean the mirror daily. Observe, reflect, realign. Do not fear what you see. Even darkness, when understood, becomes light. The third law does not promise comfort, it promises clarity. And clarity is the beginning of wisdom. In the first law you remember. In the second you balance. In the third you see. When these three unite within you, the illusions of time begin to fade. You realize that awakening is not escape from the world, but perfect reflection within it. The mirror shines, the light returns, and the self dissolves into what it always was, the one looking back at itself. In the crucible of existence, nothing is ever lost, only transformed. This is the fourth law, the flame of transmutation. It is the law that turns darkness into understanding, pain into wisdom, and mortality into light. All who seek awakening must pass through fire. I, Thoth, keeper of the emerald flame, tell you this. The universe itself is a furnace. Within its unseen heat, consciousness refines itself from raw energy into divine awareness. The ignorant fear this fire and call it suffering. The wise enter it willingly and call it rebirth. Transmutation is not destruction. It is elevation. When gold is forged, dross burns away, but the essence remains. So it is with the soul. Every trial, every heartbreak, every loss is the flame that purifies. The fire does not come to punish but to liberate what is eternal within you. In ancient days we built temples of initiation beneath the desert sands. At the center burned the invisible flame, not of matter, but of vibration. Those who came to learn the mysteries were not taught words, they were taught endurance. They were asked, "Can you stand in the fire of yourself and not flee?" Few could, for the flame reveals truth without mercy. This is the nature of transmutation. It strips away illusion layer by layer until only essence remains. When you say, "I am lost," the flame answers, "then burn what is false and you will find yourself." Modern man avoids the flame. He numbs his pain, distracts his mind, runs from silence. But that which you avoid will find another way to reach you. The universe does not forget unfinished lessons. What you suppress in one form returns in another. Through people, through circumstance, through fate, until you face it willingly. The flame is both destroyer and healer. It will tear down every identity built on fear, yet it will never harm what is real. Fire consumes only what can burn. The true self, being eternal, remains untouched. You ask, how do I work with the flame of transmutation? Begin by surrender. Resistance creates suffering, surrender creates passage. When pain arises, do not run. Observe it, let it burn through you. Ask not, why is this happening to me, but what within me seeks to be purified. This single change in perception turns agony into alchemy. The alchemist's first truth was never about metals. It was about consciousness. Lead and gold were symbols. Lead is ignorance, heavy and inert. Gold is awareness, radiant and incorruptible. The fire of transformation is your own awareness focused upon itself. When you bring attention to any shadow without judgment, you ignite the inner flame. That light reorganizes all energy it touches. In the age of machines, humanity forgets that transformation is inward. You invent technology to change matter but neglect the technology of the soul. No engine, no algorithm, no power outside you can perform the alchemy that life demands. You must burn your own fear into courage, your own doubt into clarity. When you look at the suffering of the world, wars, greed, cruelty, see not doom, but the collective flame of transmutation. The old order burns so that the new may rise. The structures of deceit collapse because consciousness can no longer sustain them. Fire comes when denial has reached its limit. It is the sign that evolution has begun. In the higher temples, we taught this mantra. What I face, I transform. What I resist, I repeat. Repeat it until it becomes truth within you. The flame obeys focus. Direct your awareness toward the wound, not to relive it, but to release it. Every time you transmute pain into understanding, you expand the light of the collective. Remember, the greatest power of the flame is love. Not sentiment, not softness, but the raw, luminous force that accepts all things as fuel for awakening. Love is the highest fire. It purifies without consuming. When you love even what once harmed you, the cycle of karma ends. Do not mistake the fire's heat for cruelty. It is compassion in its fiercest form. It does not coddle, it cleanses. It does not soothe, it strengthens. Those who walk through it emerge radiant, carrying the glow of truth within their eyes. The world feels this light and calls it wisdom, but it is simply remembrance after the burning. And know this: transmutation is endless. Every level of awareness births a higher one. The flame never dies, it only refines. Even I who speak to you now still walk within its glow. The universe itself is still becoming. The dance of burning and rebirth continues through every star, every soul, every breath. You fear endings because you have not yet seen them as transformations. Death is the final and most merciful fire, the one that returns all forms to essence. Nothing dies. Everything changes. The phoenix is not myth. It is the eternal pattern of being. When you accept the flame, you stop pleading for peace and begin creating it. You stop asking for ease and begin embodying strength. The fire no longer frightens you, because you see yourself as its keeper. So let this be written in your soul. To burn is to remember. To transmute is to become. When the fourth law awakens in you, you cease to resist the trials of existence. You become the alchemist, not the victim. You realize that every fall, every loss, every tear was the universe refining you into clarity. The first law made you remember. The second made you balance. The third made you perceive. And now, the fourth makes you transform. When the fire within you burns pure and steady, you will no longer fear the fires outside you. For you will know, they are the same flame, the same eternal light seeking to reveal itself through all things. All motion in the universe is circular. The stars spin, the seasons turn, the soul departs and returns. This is the fifth law, the circle of cause and return. It is the rhythm of all creation, the invisible wheel that governs karma, destiny, and the flow of consciousness through eternity. Nothing leaves without coming back. Nothing is sown without harvest. Nothing begun remains unfinished. I, Thoth, inscribe these words upon the field of mind. There are no accidents. What you call coincidence is the meeting point of lines once set in motion, long before you remembered them. Every action, every thought, every emotion travels outward like a ripple in still water, and when the circle completes, it meets its source again. This is not punishment. It is precision. The universe does not judge. It balances. The circle is justice beyond human law. What you give, you receive, not because some deity decrees it, but because energy always seeks symmetry. Every cause demands its echo. In the temples of old, we taught that time itself is a spiral, not a line. What you call past and future are points upon one turning coil of awareness. The deeds of one lifetime become the seeds of another. The lessons avoided today return tomorrow with sharper edges. The kindness offered now returns as strength in ages yet unborn. The wheel forgets nothing. To live without awareness of this law is to live as a blind traveler, cursing the stones he himself scattered. Humanity repeats its wars, its greed, its sorrow because it refuses to see the circle. You call it history, but it is recurrence, cause meeting itself again. When nations exploit, they will one day kneel. When they heal, they will rise. The circle is merciful, for it gives infinite chances to correct imbalance. It is cruel only to ignorance. Once you see it, you are free. You can shape your return. You can plant deliberately instead of by accident. You realize that every word, every thought, every silence is a seed. Ask yourself, what do you wish to return to you? For that is what you send out now. The unawakened cast out anger, then cry when it returns. The wise send peace knowing that it multiplies. To live with awareness of the circle is to live as a conscious creator. Each moment becomes sacred because you know it will come back to your door. In the higher schools of Atlantis, initiates were shown the wheel of causation, a vast ring of living light turning slowly in the void. Upon it were written the symbols of all experience. When the initiate placed a hand upon the ring, it revealed the chain of his own lives, every deed, every intention, every result, until he understood that he was not the victim of fate but its author. To see the circle is to awaken from blame. You cease asking who did this to me, and begin asking what did I set in motion that now returns for completion. Then resentment dissolves into wisdom. You no longer curse your challenges. You recognize them as the return of unfinished mastery. Do not think this law only binds suffering. Joy, too, returns. So does love, inspiration, and grace. The universe forgets no kindness. Every selfless act is a spark that circles back as protection in unseen ways. The same flame that tests you also warms you. Modern humanity has dulled its sense of consequence. Technology accelerates desire but hides return. You click, consume, destroy, and forget, yet the circle remembers. The pollution you ignore today will become the air your children breathe. The hate you release online will rise again as your own despair. The wheel of causation is slow but absolute. To master it, one must first observe it. Begin with small things. Speak a word of patience and watch how peace follows. Offer forgiveness and see how heaviness lifts from your own chest. Give gratitude and abundance will form without effort. Each act completes its orbit faster as awareness increases. The awakened shorten their cycles. What once took lifetimes now returns within days, hours, minutes. The circle is also the secret of immortality. Energy never ends. It only changes form. When the body dies, the current continues its curve, drawing you back into new expression. Death is only the pivot between cycles. The wise prepare not for escape but for return, planting seeds they wish to harvest when the wheel turns again. This is why I taught, to live well is to die ready. For the soul that has balanced its causes, death is but a gentle rotation into new light. The one who dies in imbalance is drawn again into the lessons left undone. Yet even this is grace. The circle never condemns. It teaches through repetition until you remember harmony. Once balance is achieved, the wheel no longer binds you, it carries you. You move with it instead of against it. The rhythm becomes music, not weight. Hear this, seeker of truth, you cannot break the circle, but you can rise above its plane. When your actions align with divine will, when cause and effect merge into wisdom, the circle becomes a spiral upward. You still move, but each turn lifts you higher. That is liberation. The unwise see the world as chaos. The awakened see pattern. Both look at the same universe. Only perception differs. In the first law, you remembered your essence. In the second, you found balance. In the third, you saw reflection. In the fourth, you transformed. Now in the fifth, you understand continuity. Everything returns. Everything completes. The circle is not prison. It is perfection. And when you finally stand at the center of that eternal wheel, unmoved by its spin, you will know what I have always known, that the beginning and the end are one breath, and you have been breathing it since the dawn of time. All journeys end where they began. The soul that left the source must one day return. This is the sixth law, the return to the one light. It is the crown of all the other laws, the fulfillment of remembrance, balance, reflection, transformation, and return. It is the moment when the many become one again. I, Thoth, the scribe of the infinite, have written countless words across the ages. Yet none are higher than this. All is one, and the one is all. You were born from that light, and everything you have ever sought was the longing to reunite with it. The search for love, power, knowledge, all are veiled forms of the same desire, to go home. The one light is not a distant sun in the heavens. It is the core of your own being, the silent observer behind every thought. The gods you worship, the worlds you explore, the lifetimes you live are merely reflections of that central radiance expressing itself through different masks. The path of return is not outward, but inward. At the end of every cycle, the universe folds itself inward like a flower returning to seed. All energies purified through countless lifetimes and lessons, are drawn back toward the source. What was divided becomes whole. The wave merges back into the ocean, and in that merging, individuality dissolves but is not lost. It becomes remembrance within the infinite. The mind fears this law, for it clings to separation. It asks, if I return, do I cease to exist? But I tell you, what ends is illusion, not life. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean remembering itself as a drop. The light does not erase you. It absorbs you into its greater intelligence. You remain, yet expanded beyond measure. The ancients knew this. In the final chamber of initiation, the adept was placed within darkness, symbolizing the womb of the cosmos. There he heard these words, "You are not entering death, but the light beyond light." And when the vision came, he saw not gods above him, but himself, infinite, radiant, silent. The return is not an ascent, but an unveiling. Every life you live refines the signal of your consciousness. Each act of compassion, each moment of clarity burns away distortion. Eventually, the vibration becomes pure enough to resonate fully with the one light. Then, the circle closes, and you cross beyond the realm of duality. No longer bound by birth or death, you exist as awareness itself. The return is not an event in time. It is a state of being. There are souls walking your world even now who have already returned. Though their bodies remain, their consciousness dwells in unity. They are the quiet ones, the healers, the teachers who speak few words but carry peace like a living flame. They do not seek followers. They serve as mirrors of the light. Understand this, enlightenment is not escape. It is inclusion. To return to the one light is to see divinity in all forms, even in shadow. You no longer reject or resist anything, for you perceive that all motion, all polarity, all struggle was the light discovering itself. The wars of the world, the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars, all are notes in the same cosmic symphony. When you reach this awareness, forgiveness becomes effortless. Judgment ends, for who can condemn when all is self? The sinner and the saint are different phases of the same learning. The destroyer and the healer are instruments of the same evolution. Only those still asleep divide reality into good and evil. The awakened see only process, the one remembering itself through experience. In this stage, silence becomes sacred. Words fade because meaning no longer needs translation. Meditation, prayer, and ritual dissolve into pure awareness. You do not seek God. You breathe God. Every atom you touch sings with recognition. You look upon another and see not a stranger, but the light wearing a different name. Do not wait for death to return. Return now, through stillness, through seeing, through surrender. Sit in silence and ask, who is aware of this thought? Trace the awareness back layer by layer, until nothing remains but presence. That is the doorway to the one light. You have never left it. You have only dreamed of distance. When humanity remembers this collectively, the age of division will end. There will be no need for rulers or religions, for all will know themselves as expressions of the same source. Science will merge with spirit, art with truth, and civilization will move not by conquest but by resonance. The planet itself will breathe easier, for the consciousness that created imbalance will have healed its root. In that age, temples will not be of stone, but of awareness. Worship will not be ritual, but recognition. The light will no longer be sought, it will be lived. But hear this, seeker. The return is not the end of movement. Creation expands again, for the one loves to know itself anew. After every return comes another emanation, another cycle, another dream. The difference is that the awakened create consciously, not blindly. They descend into matter with remembrance intact, carrying the light into new worlds. That is how gods are born. Thus the circle becomes the spiral, eternal return with infinite ascent. So I say to you now, children of time, do not seek the light as if it were far. You are made of it. You always have been. The first law made you remember. The second taught you balance. The third showed reflection. The fourth forged transformation. The fifth revealed return. And now the sixth completes the journey, union with the source. You began as light, you wandered through shadow, and you rise again as light refined. This is the purpose of existence, the truth written in every atom, the promise of every dawn. When you know this, truly know it, you will not pray for the light. You will shine it, and in that shining, the One remembers itself through you.